So one of the things we distinguish is we have this discussion about the difference between leading and managing. And a lot of people take that as an either or. You are either leading or you are managing, and typically that's seen as leaders are doing the right things and managers are doing things right. And there's some literature that suggests you're doing one or the other. I'm going to adopt the Mintzberg model down here, which is this triangle. And Mintzberg says that's really a false dichotomy. That really managing, he describes, has an element of craft work as well. The people who take the binary view of leading or managing usually express that as science versus art, that it takes its leadership art that decides what are the right things to do to get the big pieces right, to create the vision, and then it's management that is the science of doing things right. So you're using Lean Six Sigma or statistical process control or value chain analysis to come up with the right way to implement the vision of the leaders. And so then there's some discussion about, well, how do you blend this art and science properly? What's the right mix? And how Mintzberg says, no, in fact, if you have a manager who's concerned with doing things right, but he doesn't know anything about the art of leadership, about doing the right things, then you're going to do a great job of doing things that aren't important. But if you have a leader who comes from the world of art, but who doesn't understand how to do things right, he's going to come up with visions about things to do that can't be executed because he doesn't have the experience of trying to do things correctly. And so he won't be a very good leader at all. His visions will be more like hallucinations. So Mintzberg says that people who talk about leadership or managership, or leadership versus managing, are locked into this worldview that it's only a single continuum between art and science. What Mintzberg says is, no, there is a craft work component, and that is the practical knowledge that you get from trying to find this trade-off between science and art each and every day in many different dimensions and many different iterations. So you learn how to do things in a proper way that you get from experience. And so when you add this third dimension, you discover that really the sweet spot is found in the middle of this triangulation, in which you are not only using art to come up with doing the right things and science of management to do it the right way, but you gain practical experience in how to make that trade-off, and you develop some how-to knowledge that allows you to stay in that sweet spot. So you have to really eliminate this distinction between leading and managing and practical work and say it's all tied together around this notion of this little center of the triangle of excellence, that this is craft work at its highest level, right? So that's one of the discussions that we have in the colleges about the let me try to erase some of this stuff so I can get some new pictures in there. Yeah. Trying to erase the some of that sketching. It's not cooperating with me. All right. Well, that's what I wanted to say about that anyway. So another discussion that we have is this difference between coaching and mentoring. And that's a different relationship than if I have a direct formal leadership or managerial role with a subordinate. The coaching skill is one in which it's not really voluntary on the part of the employee, but it's a performance advice that helps a person do their job better, right? And it's a formal relationship, and the person might not. And most of the literature you see on mentoring, though, says that's really initiated by the subordinate, and they go outside the chain of command to find somebody that they admire and respect, and they ask for career advice. And then it becomes a choice of the mentor whether or not to actually engage in that relationship. So it's voluntary on both sides, but it's initiated by the mentee. And I want to distinguish that with this notion of self-coaching and self-mentoring, or collaborative learning, in which peers get together and through a process of coaching each other or working together, we get better at our process because we're incorporating each other's points of view. So one of the things that I do in my consulting work is that I try to account for all these differences. And what I've learned is that I can teach people how to do a certain task. I have some craft knowledge as sort of as a trader of equity markets and commodities and currencies. I know some things about that side of the business, and I have a disciplined approach, and I know how to use my tools. I look like this guy over here, sort of a craftsman of trading. And so I have a number of students who want to come to me to learn how to do this stuff, and they look like this. They're carrying all the same stuff but one of the things you notice is that this guy's disorganized. He doesn't know how to hold his stuff. Everything's a crisis. He doesn't have a disciplined, routine way to manage. And really what we're talking about, this is the problem of developing craft work altogether. So let's say that the task we're talking about is how to carve a proper and beautiful wooden bowl with tools. And so the educational challenge is to take that student, give them all the prep materials, but then through the practice of making bowls, turn them into the craftsman over time. If you make enough bowls and learn from it, you can progress from novice up to master craftsman. Well, if that's sort of the craft knowledge model of professional learning, one of the things that we learn is that when you adopt the role of coach or mentor, in order to help this student become a craftsman, when you just lecture at them, what really is, you're really telling them how you see the bowl in the middle, and then you're sending that information over to them. Say, here's how I see the bowl as a master craftsman. Why can't you understand it the way I just said it? That's sort of the lecture hall approach. What becomes effective is when you no longer adopt the role of sage on the stage in a lecture, but you move over towards the student's side, and now you become a guide on the side. And now what it is, you concentrate more on the student and learn how the student is seeing that bowl, and then based on you have a slightly different perspective, you can then tell them what it's like, but you are starting with the student's perspective. Well, here's what we know. That we know that one of the best ways to learn how to do something is to try to teach it. And here's why that's true, I think. When you deliberately adopt this perspective, this change in perspective to help the student see the bowl in a new way, it's forcing you to see the bowl in a new way and to talk about it in a new way in words that appeal to the student and not necessarily to the words that appeal to you. And so by the act of trying to teach, it forces you to now see that same bowl that you have developed mastery over from two different perspectives, and that automatically improves your own personal understanding of the bowl. So it turns out that there are things that you can learn about your profession that you can only learn by trying to teach other people. That's the only way that you can learn those particular lessons. And that's why in terms of developing your own professional practice, you should take on the challenge of trying to teach to others so that you can develop your own deeper understanding. That's almost a selfish way or a selfish reason for wanting to be a teacher, but it's also a practical way of appreciating what's going on. Does that make sense to you? So by you crossing the line and adopting the student's perspective, what you're actually helping them do is to move from their location on this side of the bowl and ask them to look at the bowl from your perspective. And now you're giving them you're asking them to look at it like a master looks at it. Only you're using words that they can understand. You actually help them move to this new position. Now they can see the bowl that they're working on from two different positions, and then that allows them to adopt this position over here as the master craftsman. And so by teaching, you enable this person to more quickly achieve mastery, and it also serves to improve your own understanding. And when you do this enough, then you can ascend to the higher level, the guild of the master craftsman. That's how you go from being a journeyman up to a master craftsman, is through the teaching of others. And so one of the things that we should look at inside our professions is to place a higher value on the act of teaching and coaching and mentoring, because it's selfless service to the members of the profession that are trying to learn, but it's also a powerful way to improve your own learning about your own professional practice. So there's almost an obligation to be a teacher as a member of the profession in order to take care of the profession. And so when you look at the Carnegie project on the doctorate, one of the things that they were looking at was, what is the role of the terminal degree holder in preserving the knowledge of the profession? And they said there were four things. One is to preserve the timeless wisdom. Second one is to certify people in the application of the current practice. The third one was to conduct research that pushes the boundaries of knowledge and creates new professional knowledge. And the fourth one is to act like a caretaker of the profession, to ensure that the entire profession is being cared for in a proper way. And so by adopting the role of teacher, you accomplish most of those roles. You are preserving your wisdom by helping the junior members understand it. You are ensuring that they are certified in the application of the knowledge. You're doing research in order to incorporate new ways of knowledge that you discovered, and you're taking care of the profession by ensuring that your own practice and the body of knowledge and the new members are all being cared for. And so people ask me all the time, why do you spend so much time teaching? And I say, it's not only do I enjoy it, it also seems to be a professional responsibility in my view. But really, I really enjoy it. But this is why I enjoy it, because it helps me contribute in those different ways back to the profession. Yes, it's do as I do, and then also do what I say. So as a professional, you get to see all of those elements. Well, we're about 35 minutes into this 20-minute speech, so what I just wanted to just kind of quickly show. So what I do with my coaching profession, my coaching piece now is, and the webinar that I just got done working on was this, that this represents me with this, this little gizmo here. This orange dot represents me and my own professional body of knowledge. And then last year I taught these two people in yellow my different techniques, and I acted as a coach for them. And now what I have this year is I have them in charge of assistant coaching a new group of 4 people, so they're passing on things that I taught them to this group of 4. And then once a month we have a coaching call in which those 4 new members plus the assistant coach get together with me, and then we have a conversation about the whole teaching team, and that's a chance for me to reinforce the lessons that my junior coaches have taught. And then what I did tonight was I had a meeting just for the assistant coaches. I have like 4 of them, and each one coaches 4 people. So tonight was a discussion between 2 of those coaches and I about our experiences as coaches, so that we can do a better job as coaches. So this is a way to do both vertical coaching between me, an assistant coach, and the group of four, and then a horizontal one where I get just the assistant coaches and we talk more about techniques of being a good coach and not so much the technical pieces. So it turns out that this is what collaborative learning is like, and that this is how we're adopting a craftsman and a guild approach to understanding the technical knowledge of trading the currency in commodity markets, or what we just call it, carving wooden bowls. So this model of coaching where each one teaches one and then in turn they teach their people, and we're teaching these guys in their group of four that they partner up with a study partner, almost like a chemistry lab, and so two of those people work together each month and they share their insights, and then all four get together to talk about it with their coach, and then when they're ready, then I come in and then I talk about things at a higher level, and that way we have multiple teachings going on, and everybody gets to participate in leading, managing, coaching, mentoring, collaborating, and then developing both the science and the art and the craft of this professional knowledge that we're trying to teach. So when I think about the intersection of HR and OD, I see the distinction between the two as being almost artificial, that when it comes time to developing people, that how you develop your people is not just a function that you do in the HR department as an afterthought. It really is a central important operation to how we create value inside our organization, and it should therefore be front and center in OD, that HR and OD have a huge area of overlap and ought to be working together rather than trying to compartmentalize personnel development as a simple support function. It really is central to how we create value add